A recent report published by the Varieties of Democracy Institute suggests that more voting around the world doesn't necessarily mean more freedom. Joining me now from Los Angeles is Larry Diamond. He is co-editor of the Journal of Democracy and a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution. Larry, great to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Meg.
Despite more elections taking place globally, why are we seeing the world becoming less democratic overall?
Well, first of all, because elections alone do not equal democracy. First of all, you have to have free and fair elections, and it isn't clear that we've even had that in Pakistan. And we're very worried about whether the Zimbabwean elections are going to be free and fair. And certainly, you haven't had anything approaching free and fair elections in Russia. And secondly, we're seeing in Pakistan now, the people who win the elections have to have the real authority to rule. And if you have the military and the intelligence services standing behind them, or a bunch of unelected clerics in Iran, then elections alone don't make for democracy.
Larry, on Wednesday, Pakistan held an election deemed the dirtiest in the country's history. At least some people have died during the voting. Is Pakistan even considered a democracy anymore?
I don't think Pakistan has been a democracy for many years because of the military and authoritarian intelligence services domination of the political system. But look, it's much better to have multi-party competition in elected parliament and some channels for popular input than the kind of outright dictatorship that they had under General Musharraf and absolute military rule. But we really need to push for the military to draw back and allow civilians fully to rule. And we need to monitor these elections around the world very carefully to ensure that they really meet international standards of freedom and fairness.
And it was at least 31 people have died during that voting in Pakistan. I wanted to point that out. Now, according to the Varieties of Democracy's report, the United States is actually considered a backslider, a country that has declined in terms of democracy over the past 2 years. Can you explain the factors that go into making this kind of determination?
Well, several different rating systems, The Economist magazine and Freedom House, have been noticing the same retrogression of American democracy in the last few years. Political polarization has a lot to do with it, the increasing political intolerance that's seeping into our electoral political process and social media. The Russian interference in the election has had a significant role in affecting judgments. And the fact that if you look at our political system, we have a president who didn't win an absolute majority of the vote. The Economist magazine has just calculated that the Republicans have less than a 1% chance of winning the popular vote for the House of Representatives, but 30% chance of retaining control of the Congress. So there's certain undemocratic aspects of the American political system that a lot of observers are increasingly noting. And then there's a rising trend toward voter suppression in the United States that also really needs, I'd say, fairly urgent attention.
So what's next? How do we tackle this issue of improving our democracy, first here at home, but then around the globe?
Well, I think we've got to start at home because if we don't have a democracy worthy of emulation in the United States, as we've been seeing, it will increasingly affect international aspirations and movements as well. I think we've got to harden our electoral system, our voter registration databases against Russian and other international interference. The Congress needs to appropriate more money to assist the state electoral administrations to do that. I think we need electoral reform in the United States to make it easier to vote for independents and other alternatives than just Republicans and Democrats. You know, the state of Maine has just adopted preferential voting so that people will be able to rank their choices in Maine in November for U.S. Senate and U.S. Congress. You don't just vote Republican or Democrat, but what you do is, as in a growing number of American cities, you can rank 1, 2, 3, and so on. And this makes it easier for centrist, moderate, independent, other alternatives to come in and offer voters more choice, which may also not only discourage polarization, but encourage more people to vote.
All right. Larry Diamond, thank you for joining us.